Alrighty guys, time to talk about settings and mods. Sorry for the squeaky chair. I'm the ghetto broadcaster. No editing, and I don't have one of those rockstar gamer chairs yet. I run on coffee and food. At least I do have a great gaming PC though, so that's pretty much all I need. A new microphone would be good though, and another screen, as when I live stream I'm rolling on the old Samsung. Anyways, blah blah blah. We're here to talk about settings. Now, this definitely is an opinion piece. I'm going to talk about settings for PvE, and then about 3/4 of the way through talk about some settings for PvP. Although it's opinion piece, as mentioned in many of my videos, I've been doing this for a few years. And as far as recruiting goes, I use Reddit and Steam as my main sources. And I do read a lot of posts that aren't even related to recruiting. And that's the original idea, to do a playthrough to allow people that normally play single player to come onto a multiplayer server and still do playthrough safely. That idea came from reading on Reddit. So when I design a server, my first thing I do is build a server that I want to play on. And generally what's happened is that's attracted other people. However, if you're the kind of person that wants to play on a server with 35 mods and 50 times rates, you're not going to attract a lot of people. So you do have to make some sacrifice, and the information I'm giving you today is based not only on my experience running high pop servers, but what I've read on Reddit and Steam. And when you start reading enough, and we're talking over the years, hundreds of hours reading, you see what people are looking for. You get an idea when people send you a message on Reddit saying, well, I don't like this rate or I don't like that rate. And you start to get an idea on what the general population is looking for. Now, if you attract a big percentage of the general population, or you have the rates and the mods that they like, you're opening the doors to having a bigger population. This video is not for niche servers. If you're running a niche server, like an RP server or a specific 20 mod server, then there's nothing here that's really going to help you. And you're not going to get to high pop. But if you're running a niche server, your goal is not getting to high pop anyways. So you still might get something out of this video though. Sit through it. So let's talk about settings first. If your rates and this is not the same with PvP, which I'll explain in a bit. But think about this: if your rates are too high and everybody gets everything right away on a PvE server, they're going to get bored and leave. And you're going to end up in a perpetual promotion setup. There's two reasons why I don't like super high rates. Number one, it's a survival game. It's meant to be hard. That's what attracts most players to it. Number two, it makes the game too easy. People get to the end too fast and they leave. And another side, and this one's big, when a player puts in the time and does the breeding to get a really high level dino, in some cases they're quite proud of that dino, and they like, even though they've reached the late game, they like to fly around on their wyvern, or they like to fly around on their argent, or run around on their T-Rex and kind of show those new players what they've accomplished. And that's another attraction to the very late game. So if your rates are reasonable, not too high, then you're capitalizing on those three main things. And it also, if the rates are really high, it just gets boring so fast. It's too easy. Now, if the rates are the same as official, you got a hard sell. People are going to be like, well, what's the point to playing with you? You can still do it, though, and I would love to run a server with exact vanilla settings. But the players just tend to be, that want vanilla settings, go to official anyways. At that point, you're selling lag-free 24/7 admin support, which is still a good sell. So let's get into it a little bit. Of course, showing the players on map, very helpful. That allows them to see themselves when they're running around on the map. Level 5, max wild 150. I wouldn't go above 200 on this. It just doesn't make sense. When those dinos are tamed, bred, they just get way too high. Structures nearby at 1300, that's vanilla. There's a reason for that. You might think at the beginning, like I did once, big mistake, that you can just cap that out because you're running a top-end server, which I do. But over time, there's a reason why they're at 1300 for vanilla. The prevent disproportionate harvests, false. What that means essentially is that when I chop a stone with a better axe, I get more stuff, and we want that, so I don't prevent it. All items lockable, very important. This way, immediately when you place an item, by default, it's locked. And lockable, unlock and lockable. Damage dinos by spike walls. This is debatable. Most of my players love it. One downside is when the dino gets damaged by spike walls, he does continue to attack it. And that means that they kind of stick around and come close to your base. But at the same time, when you're taming something, like for the beginners that watch my tutorial video, you see that I'm taming a pterodon, and raptors and all these things keep flying into the spike walls and dying, and I got this great source of meat. So it has some good advantage. Hard limit turrets in range, I definitely recommend it. Whether you're on PvP or PvE, it limits the amount of turrets on your server, reduces server lag. Show floating damage text, self-explanatory, fantastic. Allow baby imprint cuddle, of course. Why else would you want to be breeding? I use prevent tribe alliances. That's a personal choice. I also use a 6-man max on the tribe. That's another personal choice. I've just had too many issues with huge tribes for various reasons I won't get into. But, you know, a big tribe sometimes gets the idea that they run the server. It's rare, and, you know, that's kind of a turn off for some people. But for a lot of players, that's a turn on. If you're a solo player or you're a tribe of 3, knowing there's not going to be some 25-man tribe alphaed up running the server is definitely nice as a comparison to official, so you really want to consider it. Of course, destroy unconnected water pipes. It means at 5 times the decay speed, those pipes get wrecked. They're gone within 3 real-time days if they're not attached to something. I use a max of 500 per tribe. You got to be a little more flexible on this as far as the dinos go. Number one, it's 6-man tribe, so that's a little under 100 dinos per tribe member. This is just about server lag. In a PvE server, if you've got too many, and I'd like it to be lower, but that, you know, when I set up my server, in this case, this is my exclusive one I've been talking about in the other videos. When I set up my server, I want it to be long-term, no wipe, lag-free. And if people can have 10,000 dinos each, or whatever, they're going to be taming, breeding, and just about doing anything and stacking them up. And whether you like it or not, that's probably going to strain your server after a certain amount of time. So it's something I would like to see lower. What happens then is you're only going to tame the dinos you need. There's a limited amount when you have S+, which I do because of the nanny. You don't need those giant kibble farms. But that is something you really have to think about depending on whether you're using S+ or not. Maximum number of tribe mates we talked about. Unlimited respecs, this relates to mind wipes. For me as a player, it's key. As it stands right now, you can only use 1 mind wipe per level. Now in the early game, that's no big deal because you're leveling up so fast. It's also hard to make mind wipes in the early game. In the late game, that's an issue. It's a debatable one. I have that there because I like to build sometimes during the day and go do caves at night, and being able to take a mind wipe twice a day really helps, and I don't have to level up for that. Prevent spawn animation, I mean, just get rid of it. You don't need that on your server. Corpse locator, very important. Of course, everybody loves that. If possible, you don't need S+ anymore, which is great, to disable the structure placement collision. So this is a key setting when it comes to building. It allows you to do a lot more when you can basically collide or build into rocks or put a gate over a gate that gives you a nicer look, things like this. So highly recommended. Limit turrets in range. This will give people a count of how many turrets are in that range of those turrets. It's in addition to the turret setting that's up here. And we definitely want that. Every time, if 100 turrets fire at the same time, it's going to cause some server lag on some servers, and then just keep multiplying that number. So when you're on a PvP server and someone's flying around and they set off all the turrets, it can cause problems. This is implemented on vanilla for a reason. Allow structures at supply drops. I find personally in PvE, when you start to block where people can build, you can run into a problem. These things don't have the best range. They're sometimes a little sketchy. There's a lot of different supply drops, and you're just hindering people's buildability. What I do that allows the structures at supply drops, I then put a setting on that allows the supply drop to land on top of the structure. So if someone's built a building that would normally make it so that supply drop is not accessible. The supply drop falls in and lands on top. So we don't have an issue with that. That's why I allow building. We are in a cluster, and people do use the supply drops to transfer, especially in, aberration and whatnot. So it's pretty important. I do allow the tribe wars. No one really uses it. All right, let's get into multipliers. And these are kind of some basic settings. We'll take a little bit a look at some other settings in here in just a quick moment. I'm going to be going as fast as I can with this so as not to bore everyone. XP multiplier. As it stands right now, you got 2 times on weekends on official servers. So 2 times probably isn't going to be enough to attract players from official to you. I started with 2 times. We actually had a huge community. But the number one request, what I do I encourage people to send me suggestions, both mod suggestions and changes to the setting suggestions on private message in Discord. And from there, what we used to do every Monday is I would take the top suggestion of the week and we'd have a little discussion about it in the Discord. And XP multiplier and taming speed multiplier and harvest multiplier were the number one request to raise up. It was also the number one reason people didn't join my server when I was at 2 times. So we decided to go with 3 times. I would never go above 5 times for the reason I mentioned at the beginning. The game just goes too fast and gets boring. Anything above 5 times for me is too much. You start pushing that and you get up to 10 and 15 times, you're literally going to get all kinds of players that just want to get stuff and then they bounce. So you're going to get a lot of noobs that tried the game on official or vanilla settings or first player solo, and they had a lot of fun just taming everything and getting everything, and then they're just going to bounce when they're bored. If you want to keep the players that have thousands of hours interested and you want to keep new players interested, you're better with slightly lower settings. That's a fact, and you can write down in the comments why you don't agree, and that's fine. If you go back to my get players on your server now video, you'll see the kind of numbers I ran, and I'm telling you what works and what worked for me. Part of that reason is I'm good at promoting, but a big part of the reason, I'm not going to promote a product nobody wants. So if I'm promoting a product, I want to promote what people are looking at, and then it's just a matter of getting the marketing right. If you're selling something people don't want, it's a tougher sell. So it starts by building the server people want and then implementing the correct marketing strategies to get players on. So if you don't have the start right, you're only going to be spinning wheels as you go. So we run 3 times on the taming, the XP, and the harvest. Passive taming has to be boosted as well. Make sure you do that. This started on aberration, where water wasn't as readily available. I didn't know at the time about the Eco Decor mod that allows for the sink, and I got tired of drinking, so I reduced the water to half. Food I leave where it is. I still find that handy, definitely in caves and stuff as well. Here's something that reduces the grind, and makes it's a really great adjustment to make, and I really recommend it. Not enough people are doing it. Your resource respawn multiplier. So the speed at which resources respawn for us is twice as fast, but it also respawns twice as close to your building. So what you've done, if someone builds near some stone, metal, and wood, they don't have to go as far away to get the materials. In addition, as they farm their whole area, the stuff started to respawn from their original start position. I just find it's a fantastic adjustment to make. I highly recommend it. Dino harvesting damage multiplier 3 is pretty standard, so there's nothing different about that. When I started with just the island, the supply crates were crap. I didn't want to add a mod into it. The more mods we're going to talk about in a minute why that's bad. The supply crate loot multiplier on the island, I put it 3 times. It gives some pretty great drops. Now we've added Ragnarok to the cluster, so people could theoretically go there to get the drops, but I find that's pretty good. The supply drops on, and I'm going to be adding in, by the way, in the info will be links that will lead you to all the uni codes and an explanation of what each one does. So if you're fairly new at this or you weren't aware of those sites, I use 2 or 3 different ones. There will be links in the info part of the video to go check this out, so you can find out how to do this through ENIs. Or ENI command lines, whatever you want to call them. So I found that improvement on the drops on the island is really great. Maturation, we're running about 3 times as well. So your baby matures 3 times as fast, but you got to make sure that you make the adjustment on the cuddle interval multiplier. If the baby matures really fast and you don't have enough time to get all your imprints in, you won't reach 100%. So you have to do a little math on it depending. In my case, 3 times means 33.3 repeated, or 0.333 repeating, whatever. We just use 3.3. It works out great. Half time between between the 2 pregnancies, so more eggs, and twice as many eggs hatching. That includes non-fertilized eggs, right? So that helps people a lot. Now let's talk mods. So those are the settings, guys. Tweak them as you must. Adjust them a little bit. Let's just take another look at some of the other settings. This is a test server, so it doesn't run. I can't pull. My other servers are all in expert settings. This is through Nitrato, which has a pretty deep UI. So if you're not, I use expert settings for the other servers, which puts everything into ini command lines. But this has a whole bunch of different settings on it that we can do. And, things like disable dino taming and riding. And you can do that also with your inis, of course. Enabling the crosshair, very important. Enabling third-person mode, very important. Status notifications. Definitely on my servers, I like it. This way, if people join or leave, we know. They can always press Shift-Tab on PC, but this is another way just to kind of know when people are joining or leaving. Again, this is a test server. I don't have all the same settings as I run it on my regular servers. We've all seen this. Here I do my filming and tutorials, so I've got my day-nighttime scale adjusted. I don't recommend adjusting the day-nighttime scale. People think because it's a sign as well that the admin hasn't played the game much. When you see a server where they're saying, oh, the nights are way shorter, to me right away that means an inexperienced admin or player. Because the Megalosaurus sleeps during the day on the island. So if you have the nighttime really short, you're eliminating that dino's capability. And there's always gamma, right? There's no need to turn down your nights. So these are just some various settings. There's not a lot more here that isn't listed. This again for tutorial. I don't want on a PvE server people to be able to tame a Titanosaurus. You're just going to have them all over the map. That's all people are going to want to tame. But that's really a personal choice. Like, again, this isn't my standard settings. I would have that checked under normal conditions. But this is a test server. So we're just trying to get a look at maybe a couple other settings that I might have missed there. It gets weird when you're talking about these auto-destroy core structures and such. You're going to want to take a deep look at that. There's a web page link. This is how bad Nitrato is for it. They put a link to a guy's Steam discussion to explain how destroying stuff works. I'll put this up for you as well, okay? And this guy got in deep, he tested everything, and it's still sketchy with PvE. What I do, because I want my server clean, is regardless of timers, after 7 days, everything people built, if they haven't been online and near it, gets destroyed. And with some of the S Plus stuff, it just doesn't work. As well, if I put auto decay on dinos, they sometimes just decay right when they fall out of render range after being tamed. So a lot of issues with that setting. It took me a while just to get it to work through trial and error. This guy's study on Steam here is mostly about PvP, but he's got some good info there. So I'll put that link for you guys. Take a look. It's a tricky one to set up correctly. I do have it the way I wanted it, but it took a long time of trial and error. As far as we can tell, it destroys unattached structures very fast. So things like campfires and torches that get left laying around get destroyed very quickly on my server. The only way we've so far found by testing it to destroy that is with 2 foundations. So if you place a pillar alone, it will get destroyed rapidly. If you place a pillar on top of 2 foundations, it lasts longer. Friendly fire, stuff like that's personal choice, And yeah, so that's it about those settings there. Pretty much sums up where I'm at with it and what I like to do. If you have any questions, just feel free to pop it into the comments section. And I'm happy to answer what's worked for me, what hasn't, and anything about inis or setting up anything to do with admin if you're setting up your server for the first time. Whether it's Nitrato or not, let me know. I do engage and answer. So let's move on to mods. First is the overall basic concept of mods. Mods are great. You want them on a private server. And I'll tell you what, if you've got 20 mods on your server though, you better get ready for not having a lot of players, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you're not always online to say to someone, hey, it's going to take a while to join the first time, but don't worry, the second time will go good. You just need to install all the mods. Well, if I got to download and install 20 mods and log into the server and it sucks, there's no players or I just don't have a good time, the next time I go to play, I'm not going to want to download the 20 new mods again. For a new player or someone with a low-end computer, you're forcing them out. A new player with a bad internet connection, which is common in many countries, is going to take forever to join. A player with a low-end PC, even once they've downloaded and installed all the mods, is going to take forever to join. So if you want to put on 15 or 20 mods, you're a niche server. You're not going to get as many players. You're not going to hit your high pop. And you can write down in the comments how you have 35 mods and hundreds of players. I'll tell you what, good for you, man. You've done a good job. But you're rare. You're few and far between. And it just makes it hard when you have too many mods for new players to join your server. It makes it hard for people with low-end computers to log in. If they disconnect, okay, so you got someone with a low-end computer and not the best internet connection, which I'm telling you is common. Most people aren't running high-end cards, chips, and motherboards, okay, and RAM. So they get disconnected, say, a few times a day because of bad internet, and they got to take 15 minutes to reconnect. You know, forget about it. So find out what mods you really like and use only the ones that are key. Now, for me, they're the Super Spyglass. Why I like this Spyglass, and it's not great for PvP, because it does not show you the player name and stuff, but why I like it is what it does for breeding. If you're on a PvE server and people are breeding, this is a great Spyglass. Okay, it's unique a little bit compared to the others because of how it shows you breeding stats, and it's the only one I could find that does it this way. I know there's other ones that do, but we really like this one. If you have to find out the player name, you just carry 2 Spyglasses with you, the original and this one. And you can always put 2 Spyglass mods, but now you're starting to get extra mods that aren't needed. So Super Spyglass open source right here, 793-605-978. Just type Super Spyglass open source in Google, you get that up. Fantastic mod. For me, if you're a high-end player, you're a breeder, that's the Spyglass you want. Eco's RP Decor. I'm about to make a video of the 5 things I like about Eco's RP Decor. What a guy! Any one of Eco's mods are amazing. If I could, I'd have every mod of his on my server. But this one to me is the most important because it has the sink. It also has tons of carpets, it has towers, it has all kinds of awesome stuff. You can see this different stuff in our videos of other things. But the main thing I like about it's the sink. The sink allows water, both for you to drink, as well the bucket that you need to make the sink can have pipes attached to it. So your irrigation systems and your industrial cooker, they all attach to this bucket, right? So that reduces all these ugly pipes all over your server, and let your players know about it. I've had to. I find ugly pipes, I explain to the player, hey, by the way, and it's a benefit to them. They don't got to build these crazy pipe systems. So for me, that's a big time mod. Now, when I'm talking about the mods I use, the main point I'm trying to make is why 20 some mods don't work so well. And then these are the ones I've selected because they're amazing. Human NPC is pretty new. It's being updated a lot. Not sure you want to go with that one. We love it. I have it on my PvE server, and the clothing they wear, let's get a look at it here. What's cool about this is you can adjust the strength of the NPCs, which is fantastic. And it's in here we go, Game User Eenies. So here you would have to copy this into your engine settings, right? Just as it is. Keep that top part, right? And here, this is their standard default health. Well, on the island, I have it at 2 times. Okay, and on RAG, it's like 3 or 4 times. And you can set the kind of clothes they wear. Look at all these different options for them, so you can really customize it. On the island, I think they wear Max Chitin or Desert, I'm not sure. But on Rag, they're rolling Riot gear. Be careful with the speed, though. Anything over 1.3 gets a little sketchy. They're tameable. They do work for you. So it's fairly new mod. I think it's based off Bush People or whatever it was called. So it's got some issues, but the guy's hard at work on it. And I've already made a how to select your mod video, so I'm not going to go into that. But when the guy's, like I asked this guy a question about something, he answered it within hours. So he's active, he's into it. And just that brings me up to another note. You got 25 mods, 25 more percent chances the mod's updated, and you got 25 more restarts per month than someone with no mods, right? So keep that in mind, man. More downtime. When you go on battle metrics, what a lot of people are going to be looking at is the downtime for that server, you know, and you want to have it like that, 99, 100, okay? Because lots of people know I check battle metrics, so that's a big factor, okay? So make sure that you've got your downtime and uptime right, and 30 mods is not going to help you with that number. So that's something you really got to consider. Don't forget about it. All right. Moving along, next mod I use. We've got a lot of human NPCs. Classic flyers. PvP, something you might not want, right? But for PvE, it's great. It makes the Argent completely OP. It's in high demand. I don't know how many times someone has joined my server and said, yeah, thank God you have classic flyers, right? You can level up their speed. They can walk backwards. And you'll have to, if you're spawning them in, you've got to spawn in the classic flyer ones. If you're running aberration, you got an issue in the cluster, big time. Watch for that. If you're clustering CF flyers through into aber, even if you have flyers accepted, it's a problem. He's a known issues all over the place. It's mentioned here. So that's a no-go on aberration. And if you're going to have it on all maps but aberration in your server package, then you got to let people know not to bring certain dinos back from aber onto the island. They won't be able to go anywhere else after. It's a known problem. If you need more details about that, make a comment. I'll explain exactly what's wrong with that when it comes to aber and clustered servers. I use it on both my servers, so I don't have any problems there. Obviously, the number one, guys. I shouldn't even need to be telling you about this. Structures Plus is a complete rebuild of the game. It's amazing. In my opinion, it makes the game too easy, but it's so wanted and people like it so much. Now, if you're on a PvP server, there's a section you need to go to and read it carefully. It's called controversial, let's see if he's got it up front here somewhere. It's in his discussions. How to remove the OP things, I'll list them below, okay? But he's got it actually like set up as in controversial whatever. And you'll want to take a look here. Controversial items and how to disable them. If you're running PvP, the repair gun's got to go. No doubt about it. Imagine a guy could be sitting there just repairing the walls as someone fires. I would get rid of all the turrets, shield generators, teleporters, personal teleporters, and he's got the notes here on how to do that. But you're going to want to take a deep look. Every item's removable, because it's all based on engrams, right? So you take a deep look at S Plus if you're running it on a PvP server, and you remove the stuff that you think makes it OP. And even if you think certain things are OP, on PvE you can remove them. You can remove the transfer gun, you can remove the pull feature. It's all doable. And that's like pretty much sums up the list of mods I use, and I do that because those mods work for me. Now, when it comes to mods I don't like, this one's not really a problem if you're not in a cluster, but dino storage when you're in a cluster is a bit risky, and here's why. There's a limit right now in the cluster, in the oboe, on moving 20 dinos at a time, right? With the dino storage, someone can move 40, 50, 70, 80, 100. It strains the server a little, but worse than that, if something goes wrong and he's got 70 dinos lost in the cluster, you got the guy's game's over, right? You got to go respawn 70 some dinos. I mean, very, very risky. I don't like dino storage for that reason. It is used by a good friend of mine on his server in order to reduce the amount of strain on his servers. And I understand that, but on a cluster, that's a no-go. I don't roll no stack mods either. A lot of people like stack mods. A lot of people say they won't play without them. Most of the stack mods are half broken. They cause issue on spoil times. They cause issue in the food preserving bin. They are not good for PvP. I don't see why you'd want to be letting a guy carry 5,000 shotgun rounds on him to a fight. So all that being considered, a stack mod for me is a definite no-go. I've had many players in my servers that have, because it's one of those high requested items I was talking about on a Monday, stackable this, stackable that. I've had many players on my server that have sent me messages saying, please don't add the stack mod. I know I've seen it up in the global Discord. So steer clear of it. So the final notes here are: make settings that you think a lot of people are going to like if you want a high pop server. Use as little mods as you can get away with. If you need 10, you need 10. So be it. But make sure they're 10 you need. The more mods you have, the more players you're isolating, the longer load times, etc., etc. The end note on this is PvP. I can see a lot of sense in a 50-time server for a PvP map. What you're doing there is you're just getting people in the game so they can be ready to fight right away. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. I highly recommend it. What I would do, though, is wipe the server every month. You're going to get play, and this is cool and for a few reasons. I know, server wipes. Well, when it's 50 times, you get everything real fast anyway, so it gets like an instant tame, right? Who cares? Number one. Number two, you get these long-term players that maybe that month they lost their battle and they had a hard time, but they learned a lot. And next month, once it's wipes, they got their tribe built up and they're ready to go and they're into the fight. So, if you get someone that joins in the last week of the server, they might get some stuff done, get a feel for things, and they'll be excited on, say, March 1st when the server wipes and they get a chance for a fresh start. So that's a Rust-style setup, and nothing wrong with it. So if I was doing PvP, which I didn't, I used the same settings basically for PvE for me, but I would think that I definitely would get behind and support the idea of huge rates when it comes to PvP. And don't forget, those high rates do affect server performance, right? You got a whole bunch of guys chopping wood at the same time across the server. It has to calculate each chop. And something like a Bronto farming berries at 50 times, and then another guy farming on a trike and so on, you're going to get some lag there. So bear that in mind. That's it for today, guys. You know the story. Subscribe and all that stuff. I'm going to be adding videos to this series all the time. If you don't agree with me, put it in the comments. Like I said at the beginning, these are opinions, but they've worked for me. And if you watch admin video 1 and the promotion video, you will get more players in your server if you follow those. And this is what I base my servers on. So I don't start marketing till I've got a setup that works. This information, like I said, is based on, hours and hours and hours of reading. So listen, I got to go. Nice to chat with you guys, though, and hopefully you get something out of this. Have a great day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.